understandable. Why he start anything if he doesn't have a desire? What is it that drives a person to do anything? What is it that is motivating a person to do if he has no desire to do? It is possible only when the sense of obligation comes in. For an enlightened person, it is his nature. For a person who is trying to practice this, it is the sense of niyatam karma. The sense of obligation makes him to understand, I am not doing this because of a desire. You can say, doesn't he have a desire to perform his obligations at least? You can say that, no. He has no desire, maybe he has no desire to do that action, but maybe he has a desire to perform obligations. How do you reconcile? How do you understand that? Maybe he has a desire to perform obligations. You cannot have a desire to perform obligation. Desire and obligation does not. These are all the finer aspects of Karma Yoga. Desire and obligation do not coexist. Incidentally, because of understanding, you may be joyful while you are doing your obligation. Again I repeat, you may be joyful while doing your obligation. That is because of sheer knowledge and understanding. Even there you can't say a person has a desire to perform obligation. It's not a desire for obligation. It is the desire. Desire is always about, what is the definition of desire? Desire is raga dvesha. Desire is a acquisition, and desire is wanting to possess that acquisition. Desire is wanting to enjoy that acquisition. So desire equals acquisition, possession and enjoyment. In obligation there is nothing to acquire, there is nothing to possess, there is nothing to enjoy. That is why in Karma Yoga, bring in the attitude of obligation. Bring in the attitude of obligation. Now, you cannot develop a desire to perform obligations. If you have developed a desire to perform obligations, again you have come back to the same cycle only. Therefore, one of the difficult things to understand is obligations are not driven by raga dvesha. Obligations are not driven by desires. Then what drives obligation? Jnanam, knowledge. Since we do not know actions driven by jnanam, it is difficult for us to comprehend. Because all along we know only actions driven by desire. Even in the chronology of action, you only talk about vasana, thought, desire and action. We never talk about jnanam and action, because it comes out of a different understanding. It comes out of a different level of practice, which cannot be discussed in the chronology of action. In the chronology of action, it is only desire and action. Forget the vasana and thought. Desire, action, action, desire, action. It's a cycle. Where a seeker has a problem is, how will one get out of the cycle? If you say it's an infinite loop, if you say it is a cycle, how does one get out then? For which the solution they say is another action. I am caught up in the cycle of action. desire, action, action, desire. Now the question is, how do I get out? For which the answer is action. You turn back and say, we are doing that. We are doing that already. Already. So, obligation is not a desire. Obligation is jnanam. Obligation is not a desire. Obligation is jnanam. That is why it's called jnana karma. The chapter 4 itself is titled Jnana Karma. When knowledge drives action, what happens? It turns into karma yoga. Desires fall off. This is the formula. So the question, how is it possible that a person can do? It is possible only when there is knowledge, jnanam. What is the jnanam? Whatever we are discussing. I am not going into the jnanam now. The answer to the question is, obligations are not driven by desires. Obligations are driven by knowledge. What is the knowledge? It ought to be done, whether you like it or not. There is no desire to, there is no need for a desire to do obligation. You ought to do, you do. Why? Ought to do. Is that not a desire? How can you say that it is not a desire? Two things happen in desire. Two things happen in desire. First thing that happens in desired an action is? First thing that happens in desired an action is what? First thing that happens in desired an action is wanting to stop the action. Obligation, there is no stopping. Desired an action love. First thing is, the first thing. Whenever you want to stop an action, it means it is driven by desire. In obligation, there is no wanting to stop. Either you can understand it through knowledge, concept, or you can understand it by looking at the life of the great master. Ideally, you should do both. That's what we try. We try to understand it through concepts, and we try to understand the same thing through the life of the masters also. For there is no stopping. First thing that happens in desired an action is, you want to stop the action. Why do you want to stop the action? Why do you want to stop the action? When action stops only, you can enjoy the result. As long as you are doing, you cannot enjoy the result. You can enjoy the result. So a person is continuously in action. Where is the time for him to enjoy the result? Therefore, two things that happens in action. The two things that happens in desired action. What are the two things that happens? One is, the attitude is always to stop. In the obligation, sir. When will these obligations get over? It means the wanting to. This is the typical characteristic feature of a desired action. Second thing is, want to stop the action because of wanting to enjoy the fruit. In obligation, first thing is, when does obligation gets over? When does obligation gets over? Sharira irukra varaikum. As long as the sharira is there, obligations are there. So, obligations gets over only when you leave the sharira. Therefore, stopping of obligation as a possibility itself doesn't exist. Are you able to follow? Second, there is no, this is what I have already discussed. What is the fruit of obligatory action? Obligatory action பண்ணா என்ன கிடைக்கும்? ஒண்ணும் கிடைக்காது. அவ்வளவுதான். obligatory action பண்ணா what will you get? At least சுத்தி இருக்கிறவங்க தான் நல்லா இருப்பாங்கல்ல. At least others will be, at least லோக சங்கிரகம். இந்த ஞானம்லாம் இல்லாத போது to emotionally incite a person, they say loka sangraham evapi, do action at least for the welfare of loka sangraha and all that. All that is done when? All that is done when? When there is no knowledge for action, some emotional appeal. These are all not the principles behind action. The principle behind action is, in desired an action, two things happens. And the obligatory action is exactly the opposite of that. What is the opposite of that? There is no stopping or end to obligation. Okay, for example, when the father and mother is there, drishta, you can take care of them directly. You are doing your obligation. Now they are dead and gone. What do? Do ceremony and adrishta. Obligation still continues. The presence or absence doesn't make any difference. It means what? You need to do it till the end. From this concept arose this concept of the ceremonies and all that. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. It goes right till the end. I have done for 25 years. Now I will take a break for a few years. In obligation, it doesn't. The person who is doing obligation will never have this difficulty. For he has understood already. Obligation solli arangna, there is no end. If I am wanting an end, it is desired. This is the first indication of desired an action. The second indication of desired an action is only when you stop the action, you can enjoy the fruit. $10 days compulsory holiday you have to take, no? Break. Companies there. 10 days you have to go and you have to take a break from action. Why? Because otherwise when will you enjoy? So action, desired an action, you need to take a break from the action to enjoy the fruit. In obligatory action, it is straight away said very clearly what? Doing it, that's why all this we already discussed. Certain things about action is so difficult to digest, for it is impossible to believe that obligatory actions have no end, also have no fruit. Is not moksha the fruit of obligatory action? Is not at least moksha, is not self-development, is not moksha the result of obligatory action? Even that is not the case. Because through action, you are not achieving development. Through action, you are only eliminating the past karmas. The purity comes back. Through karmas, you are only eliminating. Now, by doing the present obligations, what are you doing? That is why you need to understand, in obligatory action, Siddha Shuddhi for purification is not an acquisition. That is why Karma Yoga itself is very difficult. Jnana Marga is almost Jnana yogena sankyanam karma yogena yogena. That jnana yoga, the Sankhya yoga is almost out of syllabus. Out of syllabus only. And karma yoga itself is very difficult because you want to start something at least with the conviction that you can acquire self-development. At least you will become that. No. You have still not understood obligatory actions. Obligatory actions is actions out of gratitude. Now what does it mean? Already enjoyed. Yeah. முன்னாடி என்ஜாய் பண்ணதுக்கு இப்ப பிரைஸ் பே பண்ணணும். Because foolishly we didn't pay the price before enjoying. We enjoyed first. So Karma Yogi is very alert to that. He says, no. From now on, no more enjoyment. Only doing. Doing what? இதுவரைக்கும் பண்ண என்ஜாய்மெண்ட்டுகள்லாம் அதுதான் gratitude. Now what is gratitude? You have already enjoyed. For that, it's the karma. The karma means action. Karma means result of action. I'm using both interchangeably. That is why it is so easy to use Sanskrit words. Because you can just use the word and any question you can ask, you can say, I didn't say that. That is why it's so easy to use words like that. Karma means action. Karma means result of that action also. So now you have to do obligatory action because you have a bundle of results already. Jnanam cannot burn that. You need to burn it through action. You need to exhaust it through action. Therefore, in Karma Yoga, you can't say self-development is an acquisition. You can't say that either. For action cannot bring about development. Action can bring about new karmas, or action can get rid of the existing karmas. Action cannot bring development. If action can bring development, all those who are acting must be developed already. Therefore, it is not action that brings development. Action is needed to exhaust That is why Vedanta starts with the statement, when you are born, you are indebted. But we don't take this statement seriously and analyze. That's the problem. It says, when you are born only, you are indebted. So the indebtedness starts from the birth. Previous janmalam puriyalana, it's okay. Sharira buddhi da arjana, it is still alright. But still, if you understand that it is rina from birth, itself is enough to make you understand what. So in obligatory action, there is no pala. Because pala is already enjoyed. எந்த ஆங்கிலிருந்து பார்த்தாலும் it can be easily understood that there is no result for obligatory action. Are you okay till now? Action means three things. Obligatory action is in the moon way. Technically speaking, action means three things. Number 1, prayatna. Number 2, vigna. Number 3, phala. Effort, obstacle, resistance, result. In Karma Yoga, he says, all this doesn't. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Verse number 41, chapter 2. He has already said it. The very first verse of Karma Yoga. When he starts discussing Karma Yoga, the very first verse, Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. So what does it mean? Action has three things. Effort, resistance, obstacles, phala, fruit. Arjuna, for this action, all this doesn't exist. For this, all this doesn't exist. For this means Karma Yoga, obligatory duties. Nambanda Varsa Parshamada, Arjuna also would have read that verse, not knowing what he is saying. You follow? What is the fear? Read. What does Pratyavaya means? Avikrama nasti kadayadu, Pratyavayamum kadayadu. That's what he says. To put it very simply, if you do the Anvaya, he says it rendu kadayadu. What is it? Avikrama nasti kadayadu, Pratyavaya kadayadu. Now, from this you need to derive. இதுக்குதான் கொஞ்சம் ஆத்மபோத கொஞ்சம் இனிஷியல் டெக்ஸ்ட் புக்ஸ் எல்லாம் படிச்சிருந்தா it becomes easy to understand what he means by these words. For these are very highly technical Upanishadic terms. Pratyavaya means what? Contrary result. Pratyavaya means contrary result. Contrary result na Tamil they say no. Pullayar pudika Koranga pochi. You start making the idol of Ganesha and it ended up like Adu Pratyavaya. What I thought, exactly opposite happened, sir. I thought something, but it ended up elsewhere. This is rare. Pratyavaya doesn't happen for obligatory duties. Now, how much he is trying to convince? Perform obligations. Why he is trying to convince us is because he is so worried about our karma, whereas we are not worried about our karmas. The only difference is that we are not at all worried about our karma. He is so worried. Later we will see all this, sir. Why worry about? Appuram paathukalam. After retirement, paathukalam. Next janmala paathukalam. You follow? Pratyavaya doesn't exist. Kramanasti doesn't happen. Vyartha. All my effort went waste. 6 months of hard work went waste. People say that, no? What are all the complaints about action? These two are the complaints about action. Why they complain about action like this? Because they have not investigated into the nature of the phala, the fruit. What is the nature of the fruit? 4 things. What is the nature of the fruit? A, B, C, D. Another. Correct. This is memory. The nature of result is independent of what you do, how you do and all that. Phala means these 4 possibilities only. And the doer doesn't know. Doer can never predict. The doer can never predict what will come. But nevertheless, one will come. What is it? You may get exactly what you want, etc., etc., etc. I am not going into that details again. All this we have seen already. A desire-ridden person will worry about these 4. For an obligatory, for a person who is doing Karma Yoga, these 4 doesn't. When these 4 doesn't doesn't exist. What doesn't exist? Pada doesn't exist. So he continues to do what he ought to do. This is how obligatory action eliminates
anger, freedom.
Correct. This is how Karma Yoga eliminates all that. It eliminates the anger, it eliminates the greed, it eliminates the worry, the anxiety, everything that is associated with action, obligation, removes. Then what happens? Whatever is there already is experienced. Whatever is there already is experienced. Whatever you are already, you know that. So, action doesn't bring knowing. It is knowledge that brings knowing. It is knowledge that brings knowing. Example, we have heard this story any number of times. It is knowledge alone that brings about the knowing, not action. Story. The prince was taken by the hunters and he was growing in the forest as a hunter. The prince who was begging in the street, was doing action, no? Was begging in the street. Only one thing came to him, jnanam. What is it? Jnanam came. Split second he got transformed. What is it? You are a prince. You are a prince. Oh, அதுக்கு நான் என்ன பண்ணணும்? The fellow asked, what should I do now? The answer is ஒன்னும் பண்ண வேணாம். Because recognize that. You are a prince. The question that the prince is asking, the beggar is asking is, what should I do now? What if I do? I will get back that. ஒன்னும் பண்ண முடியாது. You can't go and sit on the throne and remember that you are a prince. What action will help him to remember that he is the prince? Can any action make him remember that he is the prince? You can crown him. You can make him, everybody can fall at his feet. Still he will have a doubt. The moment action doesn't bring about transformation. That is the point. Action doesn't bring about transformation. It is knowledge that brings transformation. Then what is the relevance of action? இந்த ஞானத்தை செட்டில் ஆகாம விடுறது the past karmas na? The past rina, having taken in the past, not exhausting that is preventing. That is why they say from birth you are indebted, do actions to remove that indebtedness. Whatsoever you are, you will experience. The princehood is not an acquisition of action. Princehood is because of awareness, understanding, recognition. Anybody, jnanam. The orthodox word we use is jnanam, knowledge. Able to follow? Now you have contradicted, sir. Because don't we do obligation with an attitude of eliminating the runner. இவ்வளவு யோசிக்கணும். இதெல்லாம் மனன. இதெல்லாம் மனன. அதுக்கு ஒரு answer. Because the beauty of this knowledge is what all we can conceive of, think of, and what all we can think of either, they think and they give the answer. So is not for doing the obligation, is not getting rid of the rina a purpose. Is not that a purpose? No. Otherwise you can't say that. Why? You can't say that either. Why? Here we enter the very difficult portion of the evolution. Here we enter the very difficult portion of evolution at this question. Is not performance of obligation the cause for the removal of the karmas? So, அப்படி பார்த்தா கூட கர்மாங்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு even obligatory action has a reason, has a motive, has a desire. What can you say for that? This question is interesting now. One varam using. I have the straight away answer can be given. It's not that clear. It's not that there is no answer. Answer can be. I have by heart all these answers. Therefore, I know the answer. Step by step they go. Beautiful way of beautiful analysis. Is not eliminating the karma the purpose of karma? What is the answer? What is the answer? There is an answer for that also. And once you are convinced about this answer, transformation happens. You follow? All these questions, if it comes naturally to you and these answers are done, it is very relieving. If these questions didn't come to you and we are just reading it from the Shastra, it is just exciting. It is just exciting. How they are? It is just an intellectual excitement. That's all. So, these questions didn't come. These questions didn't come to us naturally. Somebody has analyzed all this. He is saying it is not there. Unless you come to this point and break it, it is impossible to understand. So I step by step I went and I brought it to the last point. What is the last point? The performance of obligation is what? The performance of obligation is what? Eliminating the runner. Because it is this that is stopping the moksha. Therefore, it has a purpose, no? Therefore, moksha becomes a purpose. You can't say that either. Because you can't say that either. How you can't say that either? Why you can't say that either? Too confused. How you can't say that either? You can't say that either because what is moksha? What have you understood as moksha? What is your concept of moksha? That is why I said we enter into the till now it is common sense. It is common sense now. For all this can be கொஞ்சம் mathematical ability, கொஞ்சம் analytical ability இருந்தா 15 minutes we can understand this. Up to this it is common sense. These are all not philosophy. Now where philosophy starts is here. Vedanta starts at this point. What is it? What do you call as moksha? What is your concept of moksha? What is it that you want to get freedom from? Moksha means freedom. What is it that you want to get freedom from? Ragadveshava. You have not penetrated. You have not penetrated enough. If Ragadvesha is the answer, na, you have not. It is very good at one level. It is very good at one level. Now at this level, Ragadvesha is not the answer. What is the answer? What is moksha? Freedom from suffering. Huh? You are that already. You are that already. What is moksha? Here, everything boils down to one word. Everything boils down to that one single word. Even the concept of moksha that you all talk about is also belonging to one category. When this answer is said, you will feel like walking out from the class. This is what I don't. The fact that you think you have karmas is one word. The fact that you are a jiva is one word. The fact that you have a rina is one word. All this is one word. All this is called in Vedanta, fantastic word, beautiful word. It's called mithya. It is called mithya. Because of mithya, you are saying all this. What is mithya? What is mithya? Mithya means it exists as long as you see it. Mithya means it exists as long as you see it. There is no reality to it. The karmas, the rina, the karma yoga, the obligations, all this looks so real, no? All this looks so real. And you believe that by doing all this only you are going to go somewhere or get somewhere. Vedanta comes in and says, all this is mithya. That's why it's called jnana. Knowledge comes and removes it. What does mithya means? It exists as long as you see it. Mithya means real to the senses. Buddhi can describe, buddhi can eliminate it. This is the definition of mithya. Mithya means it is real to the senses, unreal to the buddhi. As in, take even anything gross. The eye sees it as real, the buddhi understands it as temporary. That is mithya. Are you able to follow? Mithya means it is real to the senses. Buddhi understands it as temporary. The senses sees it as real. Buddhi understands it as temporary. Are you okay? Because the entire importance of buddhi is in this formula. The formula purillana buddhi not importance. If you don't understand this formula, the importance of buddhi will never be understood. For the entire thing of buddhi, intellect is revolving around what? A fundamental formula. What is the formula? Mithya. What is mithya means? It is real to the sensory perceptions. Buddhi understands it as temporary. Buddhi understands it as temporary. Action seems to be real for the senses. For it is the senses that is doing the action. Buddhi says, Prakriti is doing all that. Buddhi says, Prakriti is doing. I have nothing to do. Prakriti means, what does Prakriti means? The body, the combination of 5 elements, the pranas, all that is Prakriti. That is why they distinguish into, the Sharira is distinguished into elements. All this is for what? So who is the doer of actions? Prakriti. Since Prakriti is the doer of action, who will receive the benefit of action? Prakriti. If you identify with Prakriti, correct. If you identify with Prakriti, you receive that. If you choose not to identify with Prakriti, eyes are seeing. Later on he is going to say, the same Bhagavad Gita, later on he is going to say, the wise one understands. Unmishan, nimishan, napi, he says. All are doing his respective functions and I have nothing to do with it. Even relatively, it is the buddhi that understands. Are you able to follow? Therefore, the entire formula, the entire knowledge, it revolves around this formula. This formula called mithya. You can use the word maya, you can use the word mithya. And it is so important because the importance of intellect is understood only when you understand what is mithya and how a person is caught up in this mithya. What is the formula for mithya? Senses see it as real. Buddhi understands it as temporary. It doesn't say unreal. It doesn't say unreal. It says temporary. Immediately, the mind will ask, how temporary? Buddhi says it is temporary. Immediately, the question is, temporary in the, how time factor comes in. No, immediately the time factor comes in. The kala comes in, the time. Half a day, 1 hour, 1 janma, 100 janmas, as long as the buddhi is not yet developed, all this will exist. The moment the buddhi comes in, what does it understand? It understands it as temporary. Depending upon the development of your buddhi, the time factor becomes less. If the buddhi is at its peak, it says it is momentary. The person walking in is not the person who is walking out. After buddhi has reached its that's all the buddhi can reach. And the momentariness say understand analysis, buddhi gets stunned, stands aghast, wonderment, Ascharya. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschitenam, Ascharyavat vadati Taiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti Shrutva penam enana naiva kaschit. Yarkume Ascharya puriyale. Nobody seems to understand this as what is the Ascharya? The momentariness. How to explain that momentariness? Beautiful example he gives. The Vedanta treatise, beautiful example he gives to explain the momentariness. It is like the film running at a speed. When you see a movie, it is nothing but, it is all stills only. Correct. It is all individual stills only. What is a movie? Individual stills only it is. But then it goes at a speed where it looks like it is. It's actually real. Yeah. Buddhi says, what you see on the screen, you see, you laugh, you enjoy, you cry, you get frightened. Yeah. Pay for ambata? Pay for ambata, buy more. At the end of it, white screen, Brahman, nothingness or Shunyavada. At the end of it, nothingness is Shunyavada. Vedanta comes and says, don't say nothing. The most dynamic is hiding there. What is it? Prajnanam Brahma. The most dynamic is there. What is the most dynamic? Brahman is there. God is there. Don't say? Intellectually so nothing but. If you use intelligence, you will say nothing. That is what is called Shunyavada. The entire Buddhist philosophy is revolving around this conclusion. Therefore it is zero, nothing. Vedanta comes and says, that is only logical conclusion, that you have no experience of it. Those who have experienced it come and say, it is not nothing, it is not nothing, it is prajnanam. It is consciousness. What is the svabhava of consciousness? It exists. What is the svabhava of mithya? Doesn't exist. Are you able to follow? The svabhava of mithya is it doesn't exist. So all that is existing is mithya. That which is truly existing cannot be seen. So all that is existing exists under conditions, no? The body is existing here, it is not existing there. The body exists at one place at one point of time, it doesn't exist at another point of time. It exists at one place, it doesn't exist at another place. Caused by something, causes something? Yes. The svabhava of Brahma is what? Existence. Sat. Appadina stone madri irukuma. It is Ananda Swarupa. It is Ananda, it is. Blissful existence. Blissful existence drug addict madriya. Conscious. Sat, Chit, Ananda. இதெல்லாம் புரியல, or none of this is inspiring, none of this is motivating. How to help a person to come to this level? Do karma yoga, obligatory duties. அந்த கன்க்ளூஷன் வராது என்னைக்குமே. இவ்வளவு பேசுறதால அப்படியே விட்டுட்டு போயிடலாமான்னு. Since this is not motivating, since this is not inspiring, since this is not stirring you up from inside to, since this is not stirring up you from inside to leave anything, what to do? Karma yoga. அடுத்த வருஷமும் ஃபீஸ் கட்டணும். கர்ம யோகா அடுத்த வருஷமும் ஃபீஸ் கட்டணும். Why? Because it is not yet understood. Understood ஆனா என்ன ஆகும்? Fees will still be continue to be paid, but what will happen? What will happen? Freedom happens. Are you able to follow? Therefore, Karma Yoga from the beginning says there is no fruit, there is no motive either. It's one question. In Karma Yoga, he says, Samarambaha, without any, how can there be an Aramba, how can there be an undertaking without a motive, without a desire? பேசணுன்ற டிசைர் இல்லைன்னா how will I come? லிசனிங்கிற டிசைர் இல்லைன்னா why will you come? ரெண்டுத்துக்குமே டிசைர் இல்ல சார். ஆந்திர மயில சபா இருக்குதான் பார்த்துட்டு போலான்ட்டு வந்தேன். neither have a desire for hearing, not may have a desire for talking. அப்படி வாரம் வந்து இருக்குதான் பார்த்துட்டு போலாம். just want to ensure that it is there. Then the office lady will come. Why will you come? You follow? So we always believe that unless desire is there, action is not possible. Karma Yoga says, at the beginning you need to break this pattern. Don't think that you will break it at somewhere at the end. At the beginning itself you have to break this pattern, because it is the seed that is going to manifest as the tree. So seed level you have to be very clear. You can't plant one seed and expect another fruit. You can't plant the seed of Karma Yoga with desire and expect to reap the fruit of desirelessness, moksha. From the beginning itself it has to be understood. What is it is difficult to understand in the beginning? மைண்ட் சேஸ் ஆப்ளிகேட்டிவிட்டி பண்ணாலும் ஏதாவது கிடைக்கும், அட்லீஸ்ட் நிம்மதியாவது கிடைக்கும்ல. புத்தி கம்ஸ் அண்ட் சேஸ் நோ ஆப்ளிகேஷன். எக்ஸாம்பிள், every day you have to brush your teeth twice. Obligatory action. What will you get of that action? Not one extra teeth. Neither will the existing teeth be preserved. Nevertheless, you still have to go to the dentist. Nevertheless, it will all this will happen. But still, you have to do it now. It gets very. That is where the mind doesn't get motivated at all. Okay, sir, எனக்கு எதுவும் பலன் இல்லை. At least I don't want anything. எனக்கு நான் எதுவும் கேட்கல. But at least for others, லோக சங்கிரக நாலேஜ்லாம் எனக்கு வேணாம் சார். எனக்கு நாலேஜ் ஆல்ரெடி வந்துருச்சு. அட்லீஸ்ட் எங்கேயாவது ஹெல்ப் பண்ண அதோக்கு பெனிஃபிட்டா இருக்கும்ல. உனக்கு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நோ நத்திங் இஸ் for which buddhi comes and says, who are you to work for Loka Sangraha? Do that which you ought to do. It takes care of by there is a divinity that shapes up ends. So even that is also, so whatsoever you bring as phala, buddhi keeps on negating it. Mind negates the action, buddhi negates the phala. Adavada intellect is very important. Formula mari potu vechukonu idella. Na edu vechinu irukren. Formula mari buddhi negates the phala. Mind negates the action. And action na palam. Palam illana why? Why do buddhi comes and says? Rose gives fragrance for what? Sun gives vitality for what? When everything in nature has no motives to act, why only a human being has a motive to act? Why only a human being has to bring in a motive? Sun gives vitality. Earth takes that vitality. But the sun doesn't intend to vitalize the earth. Buddhi understands it. So, you do what you have to do. The benefits keep happening by itself. You don't have to have a separate desire for that. As in, sun gives vitality without the intention of wanting to vitalize the earth, but the earth gets it. Learn. 15th chapter. 15th chapter. I vitalized the sun. Through the sun, I vitalized the moon. Through the moon, I came to the earth. And through the earth, I came into the vegetable. Through the vegetable, I came into you. Symbolic ஒரு mantra we say before eating food. Brahmarpanam brahmavi brahmagno brahmanahudam brahmaivadena gandhavyam brahma karma samadhina. அது புரியலன்னா next. What is the next one? Aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham. Aham brahman puriyala first mantra. Brahmarpanam brahmavi brahmagno brahmanahudam brahmaivadena gandhavyam brahma karma samadhina. Aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham asritah pranaprana samayuktah pasam annam. This Chaturveda action is because of what? Chaturveda means the four types of action. The Chaturveda Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. All this, the starting point is what? Aham Vaishwanara. Aham means Brahman. Buddhi comes and says that, not this. That is how in Karma Yoga, from the beginning, Buddhi goes on negating the mind will somehow want to bring in the phala. Buddhi goes on negating it. You follow? Mind will somehow bring in the fruit. Buddhi goes on negating it. And I tell you, even to relate to it conceptually is difficult. Forget about practicing Allah. Even to relate to this as a conceptually, on paper, if your state relate very, very difficult. Why? Shankaracharya will come and say, that intellect, that mati, the buddhi, the intellect is covered with that. The foolishness is too much of foolishness. Too much of foolishness. Hello? This is how, from the beginning, Karma Yoga eliminates This is how, from the beginning, Karma Yoga eliminates the fruit. Conceptual solito. Then they gave practices. Now I am going to talk about the practices. From morning till night, what all you do? They kept on saying, idam na mama, idam na mama, idam na mama. Having discussed all this conceptually, now how to bring it into practice? What all you do from morning till night, Shastra says, bring in with a prayer. Mahanarayana Upanishad. There is an Upanishad called Mahanarayana Upanishad. All the karmas, all that we do, has an authority from that Upanishad. The Upanishads that we study, the Kena and Isa and all, is Jnana Upanishad. They don't talk about any karma. For straight away they eliminate the karma with dosha. They don't eliminate, they eliminate it. They eliminate it with dushna. Dushna means Savasamidam sarvam vetkinche jagatyam jagat tena tektena bunjita magrida kasyas vidhanam. Mudilena kurvan neveka karmani jivise shatasam samaha. Do karma here, living 100 years. Dushna it is, Dushna of karma. Even in second chapter, Krishna first he gave Dushna to karma. Vedavada Rataha. These are all straight away they go to the Jnanam. Some of the Upanishads gives a lot of practices, and the authority for all the practices that we do, right up to the Gayatri, it has to be chanted. Ellathukkum pramanam is another Upanishad. It is called Mahanarayana Upanishad. Udane don't ask her enga kadaikum sir, don't ask. Mahanarayana Upanishad Google pannale ella kadaikum. Oru vaartha. It starts with the mantra. What is that mantra? First thing you do is what? Wake up. Eyes open. Uddane or mantra. Extraordinary. Uddane or mantra. Anga miss panna brushing. There is a mantra. Anga miss panna bathing. There is a mantra. At least you will chant a Gayatri, no? At least morning and evening. Let our academic pona mattunda we can veetla irundala we don't. At least you do that, no? Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Adile tappa dhiyo yona prachodayat. So many people say that it is dhiyo yona prachodayat. Dhi means buddhi. Buddhi means the intellect. Angi misakina. You start your action with some karana, instrument. All actions will be done with the help of some instruments only. So worship that instrument. Angi marandaachina. எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு மந்திரம் இருக்கு. எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு மந்திரம். அங்கேயும் மறந்தாச்சுன்னா புனர்ஜென்ம. Because that which is helping you to do that action, you are not worshipful towards that. Now, the ignorance is so deep, so deep. Yeah. Mahanarana Upanishad says, do it. First start doing it. அதெல்லாம் பார்த்தா சூப்பர்ஸ்டிஷியஸா இருக்குது. Without knowing the meaning, I will not do. Mahanarana Upanishad says, start doing it first. Meaning you will understand? Yeah. As soon as the teeth starts coming, the child is said, brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. Even at 50, the fellow doesn't understand why the fellow has to brush the teeth. Now what do you do? What knowledge can you wait for? So the Upanishad says, start doing. Start doing. Because only when you start doing, there will be an abhimana to that karma. And knowledge comes and teaches the meaning. You do it. You do it with full shraddha. Correct. Everything the word சொன்னீங்க shraddha. Correct. Then only you can do it with full shraddha. So starting point is doing. Then gaining knowledge. More you gain knowledge, more shraddha in doing. More shraddha in doing, that much more easy for you to gain more knowledge. This is how the growth happens. So, the Mahanarana Upanishad gives the list of karma that has to be done. It doesn't give a list of karmas. It says what all you are doing already. Remember. For the whole idea of divinity is, the whole idea about divinity is remembrance, not the whole idea about divinity is remembrance. Whole idea about divinity is not becoming. Able to follow? How jnanam is inculcated even without you being aware of it. Jnanam is inculcated even without you being aware of it. That's why it is all, divinity is about remembrance. Tato smara, Isavasya Upanishad. Tato smara, Ridapum smara. Isavasya Upanishad says, remember. For it is all only remembrance. You have forgotten. The implication here is, you have forgotten. Yoga means you have separated. Yoga means union, get back. Get back implies, yeah. They don't say you are separated. They say, get back. They don't say you have forgotten. They say, remember. This is not positivity. They don't say you are separated. They say, unite, get back. They don't say you have forgotten. They say, remember. Tato smara. Ridapum smara. Again and again he repeats in the Isavasya Upanishad. Why? Because divine is not an acquisition. Divine is remembrance. And the practice வரணும். எப்போதிலிருந்து வரணும்? எப்போதிலிருந்து அது எங்க ஆரம்பிக்கணும்? அது மகாநாராயண உபநிஷத். Somewhere down the line you have to start. And the Upanishad always sets the very high standards and they go to the details. So first mantra, then that is why no Orthodox people do that, no? They will get up, they will not immediately open the eyes. They will get up and then open the eyes. Because opening of the eyes is for what? Remembering. Anga maranda? Brushing. Anga maranda? Bathing. Bathing la, yeah, extraordinary is that. See, when you bathe, you use soap, no? Soap. அப்போ வந்து சோப்பு கிடையாது. In those days they use? In those days they use? Coconut? Fire. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி. It is there, available. Sand. They take the sand and they rub. Yeah, best another X-Foley. ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ವಾರ್ತೆ ಈಸೆ வந்துடுறது, இங்கிலீஷ் வார்த்தைனா சில கஷ்டமா. Exfoliator. அதுக்கு ஒரு மந்திர. Because that takes 5-7 minutes. And the 5-7 minutes you should not forget. So mantra for that. Eating போது சொல்றதெல்லாம் very minimal. அது கூட சொல்ல முடியலன்னா it is eat. When the farmer starts ploughing, what he does? He worships the plough. Because he starts ploughing. So what he worships? He worships the plough. When the Kshatriya starts his practice every day, he worships the sword. Businessman starts in the chest க்கு பொட்டு வைக்கணும். Correct. It is not அது ஒரு பொட்டு வைக்கணும். Yeah. Sankhya yogi, the Brahmana, what does he do? Book ko pata ka matter. What will he do? He is a spiritual seeker. What will he do? Asavadityo Brahma Brahmaivahamasmi. Asavadityo Brahma Brahmaivahamasmi. Asavadityo Brahma Brahmaivahamasmi. Asavadityo this Aditya is Brahma Brahmaivaham Aham Brahma Asmi. Sankhya yogi, a Brahmin has to say this thrice minimum. Another 3 Sandhya prayers. Asavadityo Brahma Brahmaivaham Asmi, he should say in the morning Sandhya. Asavadityo Brahma Brahmaivaham Asmi, he should say in the afternoon Sandhya. And he should say it in the evening Sandhya. அதுக்கு என்ன பிராக்டிஸ்? அந்த நூன் சந்தியா வர வரைக்கும் சாப்பிடக்கூடாது. That is why they eat at 11 o'clock. They don't eat it because till the sun comes there, you are not supposed to eat. அப்படின்னு என்ன பண்ணின்னு இருக்கணும் அது வரைக்கும்? Either teach or do swadhyaya. இன்னைக்கு டீச்சிங் கிளாஸ் இல்லைன்னா swadhyaya. Teaching is swadhyaya, open swadhyaya, sitting and do it, but they distinguished for each and every category, all boiling down to what? All boiling down to remembrance. Vedanta comes and criticizes if you don't remember but you do it mechanically. When it says don't do it mechanically, people conveniently take it as stopping doing. Yeah, that is why all the Vedanta people will say, all those who have gained knowledge will say, I will not do anything. Vedanta didn't say don't do. It said, Don't do it mechanically. Oh, abdiya. Don't do it. Mechanically did? Mechanically kaadle olla. Adhanal enna achiye? Don't stop doing. Say, you want to stop doing, blame your laziness for that, but not blame Shastra for it. For the Shastra says, do it with the right understanding. அப்படின்னா எது first வரும்? Doing or understanding? Doing first. Doing first. In life, always remember, I have said this any number of times. I am saying it again. In life, doing happens first. Somewhere down the line you understand the meaning. You can never wait to understand the meaning and start. I have verified this, experimented with very many. See, a person who has been chanting Gayatri Mantra, he knows the meaning of Gayatri Mantra, Roma Harshasya Jayate. He gets so inspired. You have not done Gayatri Mantra at all, and the meaning is explained to you. How will you go back? தேவையில்லாத சப்ஜெக்ட் எல்லாம் கிளாஸ்ல பேசியிருந்தாரு அவரு. அதுக்கும் இதுக்கும் சம்பந்தமே இல்ல. என்னவோ அவர் தெரிஞ்சதெல்லாம். Why? Because there is no abhimana. There is no abhimana. Abhimana comes only through doing. So first is doing. You can never wait for the child to understand the importance of education, teach the child the importance of education, and then start educating. First you have to push the child. And the pushing da karma yoga. Kuru. Niyatam karma kuru. It is said as a vidhi, as an injunction. It is said as an injection. Niyatam karma kuru. Kamya karma na kuru. It's an injunction. Injunction means order. Do. இன்னசென்டா இருக்கும்போது, குழந்தையா இருக்கும்போது ஆர்டர் எடுத்துக்கிறதெல்லாம் ஈஸி. பெருசானதுக்கு அப்புறம் பெருசாக ஆர்டர் எடுத்துக்கிறது. Who are you to say that? How can you say that? You do it, it's your problem. Why do? All this comes when there is no. When there is no doing. So what they did as a practice of obligation, to make you understand the importance of obligation, first they said, start doing. And all this knowledge is given to those who are already doing it. இப்போ இதெல்லாம் பண்ணாம இருக்கிற ஆள்கிட்ட என்ன சொல்லணும்? Start doing first. அப்புறமா இதெல்லாம் we will talk all this later. Start doing. ஒரு மெக்கானிக்கல் டூயிங் வரும், ஒரு ஃபெனட்டிக் டூயிங் வரும். You start doing. What will happen after a while? It can be mechanical or it can turn phonetic. Knowledge comes and eliminates it by saying, not this, not this, not this. You follow? Till 8:35, I explained the knowledge portion of it. Yeah. Then, last 15-20 minutes, I explained the doing part of it. For Vedanta means both. Only Jnanamna, the person has reached a very high state. That person who has reached a very high state doesn't need any of. He doesn't need the lecture on Karma Yoga. He doesn't need a lecture on Upanishads. He doesn't need a lecture on anything. For he has already reached that. Now, somewhere we are not that poor as if we are not that associating with the higher. We are neither that poor, nor are we reached the state of Sankhyas. Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam. It means what? As we understand the importance of doing, we also need to know the importance of knowledge. That's why Krishna blows hot and cold here. When he talks about action at one point, he talks about knowing at another point. Arjuna gets confused. Mati Prajnavadamsa Bhashasena Mati Pesaguta. That's the literal meaning. Prajnavadamsa Bhashasena means Mati Pesaguta. Say one thing. Say one thing and stick to that. Say one thing and stick to that. What? Karma or Jnanam. இல்லப்பா ரெண்டும் இல்ல ரெண்டும் தான். உங்களுக்கே கிளாரிட்டி இல்ல. முதல்ல let them decide, then they will start doing. You follow? So from the beginning it is driven what? Karma yoga, obligatory duties. Yajna karma idam na mama. Idam na mama na enna artham? That is why they say idam na mama second. Before idam na mama something more important is said. Just one mantra. Agnaye swaha agnaye idam na mama. அவர்கிட்ட அதை கொடுத்தாச்சு. இனிமே அதுக்கு எனக்கும் அதுதான் இதன் நம்ம. It is his. It is his and he can do what he wants to do with it. That is why he says when you give dhanam with conditions, dhanam will not be accepted. In the memory of so and so will not be accepted. For a purpose it will not be accepted. You give and say na இதெல்லாம் புரியல, தப்பா பண்ணி கர்மாசன டெவலப் ஆச்சுன்னா வாட் will happen? ரொம்ப காம்ப்ளிகேட் பண்ணதுனால ஒரு ஸ்டோரியோட ஐ கன்க்ளூட். Karma is very, very important to understand the importance of Karma Yoga. A last story for today. Extra 2 minutes. Yeah, okay, va? அடுத்த கிளாஸ் இருக்கு. Story. Rama was running the court on a particular day. Rama was running the court on a particular day. A dog came, head broken, bleeding. A dog came, head broken, bleeding. Rama said, what happened? Without karaname illama I got hit. Or it appears to be so from outside. Who hit you? Who hit you? A bhikshu hit me. A saint hit, a very knowledgeable person hit me. What will that man do? Call that man. So that man was brought to the court. And Rama asked him. இதெல்லாம் Rama when he was ruling the kingdom, Rama ராஜ்யத்தில் இதெல்லாம் நடக்குது. Rama, why did you do this? He said, see, for the last 4-5 days, அப்பீல் லெட்டர் மேல அப்பீல் லெட்டர் கொடுக்குறோம், பேனர் லெட்டர் மேல பேனர் லெட்டர் கொடுக்குறோம், ஒன்னும் நடக்க மாட்டேன்றது. Irritation. And the dog is, that's what he says. And the dog is barking and wherever I go, it is interfering. So in anger, I took the stone and hit, bleeding. Now, the bhikshu has to be punished. What punishment has to be given to that man? Rama asked Vasishtha. Look at the story, yeah? Don't forget. Rama asked Vasishtha, what punishment should be given to this man? Vasishtha said, it's a very complicated case. I don't know how to. Rama said, if it is complicated for Vasishtha, why will I do? What to do now? And the dog will get lost. We will ask the dog only, what is the punishment? And ask the dog, இவருக்கு என்ன punishment கொடுக்கலாம்? Make him, the dog, make him, this is the exact words, make him the trustee of the richest temple. Give him riches and power. Give him riches and power. Rama asked, this looks like a blessing. Doesn't look like a curse. Looks like a blessing. No, doesn't look like a curse. What is the punishment in that? Rama, I was the trustee once. The dog says, I was the trustee once. தேனுக்குள்ள கையை விட்டா என்ன ஆகும்? At least one drop temptation வரும் இல்லையா? I got tempted and I did the wrong action. For that wrong action, I am suffering like a dog. Give that man this, what will happen to him? He will become another dog in the next janma and somebody will hit him also. How complicated is this karma? How deep is this? How deep is the consequences of action? Through knowledge it is said, through poetry it is said, through story it is said, somehow they try all methods to convince us to do obligation. And we say, the next week I will start, sir. I am fully convinced I will start from next week. இந்த ஒரு வாரம் விட்டுருங்க. அப்புறம் next week I will start. சரியா?